Are you really free? You may be an American, but are you living in true freedom? I love to run, and it feels freeing to move my body in the way that I do when I run so rhythmically. And it allows me to be outside in nature with God, which is my favorite place to be, and enjoy the beauty of creation. And it's cleansing to my soul and my mind and my body when I run. And it allows me to commune with God. And he downloads truth and wisdom, and he shifts my perspective about things. And it's a really powerful time for me. I've done it all my life, so it's just that rhythm that I get into, that routine, and I love it. And last week, one morning while I was running along a path in Peachtree City, I was asking God, as I often do, God, what's on your heart? And a couple seconds later, as I approached the top of a hill, what caught my eye, and I'd seen it many times before, but what caught my eye this time, and very differently this time, was an American flag at a gas station at the corner of a big intersection that was flying high above everything else around it. And like I said, I'd noticed it before so many times, but in that moment, you know how when things just strike you differently at certain times. And I noticed the beauty and the majesty of it blowing in the wind in a way that I hadn't before. And as I admired it, and I was just kind of in awe in that moment, I heard God say to my spirit, he said, Con, my heart is for my people to live in true freedom. And my heart breaks because most are living in internal bondage. They live in a land of freedom, but they're living in the bondage and the torment that I didn't make them for. They were not created for that. Then he reminded me of my calling and my purpose, and he said, Con, keep warring for the hearts of my people and set them free. You know, freedom's a word that we toss around and we take so for granted. We have no idea or real true appreciation for all that's been sacrificed by so many for us to live as Americans in the freedom that we do, and all that Christ sacrificed for us to be able to live in true internal freedom too. And we take that for granted. Yet we live in perpetual bondage, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, every day, and we have no idea how to live in that true freedom that's available to us, that we were made for. And there is a path to that. And God wants us to walk that out, wants to walk that out with us. And that's exactly what I spend my life doing, is teaching, coaching, discipling, shepherding the people who God sends me, who are ready to live in true internal freedom, so that they can then enjoy the life of freedom and fullness that he created them for in every area of their lives. Because when we change internally, we can then understand the power that we have to change everything in our lives externally and use his spirit in us to do that. And as this week of celebration of our American freedom, it's important that we stop and ask ourselves what it really means to live in true freedom. So are you living in a free country, but you're still living in bondage? What's robbing you of the true freedom that's available to you, that's really accessible to you? So maybe you're pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion every day because you're programmed to believe that you have to do enough and try to have enough to feel like enough. Is that you? Or maybe you want to give everything over to God, but you find yourself constantly yanking back the reins at the last second out of this grasping for control because you are overcome with fear, doubt, and mistrust. Or maybe you have dreams for your life, but you never feel like it's the right time to actually focus on making them your reality. When you pray, do you find yourself pleading and bargaining with God, but you don't hear his voice, and everything feels like just the same old, and the change that you want so badly isn't happening, so you just live in that perpetual state of disappointment, discouragement, and defeat? Or are you tired of working so hard on yourself and trying to change the same old patterns of thinking and functioning, but you feel stuck in the same old grind and nothing is changing, no matter what you do or how hard you work on yourself? Are you exhausted by being run by fear and anxiety and urgency inside of, or maybe of never feeling like you have enough or ever feeling like you are enough, no matter how hard you work or what you do or how hard you try, and you just don't know how to break free? Or maybe you don't know what's causing your internal turmoil exactly, but you yearn to break free from it. Or at this point, maybe you've settled for a life of struggle and existence with moments of relief, and you're calling that life. But it's just not. And there's so much more for you. And I lived all of these realities for many, many years until God showed me what true freedom really looks and feels like. And he led me into my purpose of shepherding others on that path to true freedom. You were not made to live as slaves in bondage. You were created for a life of freedom and fullness, overflowing with joy and abundance, and centered in purpose, and fueled by passion, empowered by his spirit in you. A life in alignment with your heart's desires, with his outpouring of blessings, flowing in and through you. And he's not withholding that from you. It's resistance inside of us because of our beliefs and our survival patterns that we are creating that in our reality, and we're missing out. We're settling for less than God intended for us. But it's not our fault. And you haven't gotten it all wrong, and you haven't screwed it all up, and you shouldn't have known better either. Don't believe that lie, because that's exactly what the enemy uses to keep us in shame and condemnation. And that's exactly where he wants us to stay, because it neutralizes us. Unfortunately, it's not a straightforward or a clear path to living in that freedom for most of us, unless we understand what that really looks like. And we don't learn that path to freedom in church or religion oftentimes. It's a process we learn from those who God has appointed and anointed to walk out with others, that he has personally shepherded along that journey and called them to fight for the freedom of others. There's nothing more rewarding and liberating than living in that freedom. And I'd be honored to walk it out with you, to walk that journey so that you can live in the freedom and the fullness of the life that is available to you. And if you answered yes to any of those questions, then something in your life is holding you back, or something inside of you is holding you back from the limitless freedom that you are heir to. And you already may know what the culprit of that captivity is for you, or you may be living in the denial of its existence. But I want you to think about, what would your life look and feel like if you lived a life of freedom and fullness truly? How much happier would you be if you felt like nothing was off limits to you, and you actually lived the reality of a supernatural, God-powered life, better than your wildest dreams? Well, that can be your reality. I want you to be able to face each day truly understanding that you're enough, and that there's more, and that there is more than enough to you, and that you have access to everything you need and want to live out your purpose and to live in that abundance and that fullness of joy, and how to open to receive that. And the amazing feeling that it feels to feel connected to God and to your own heart, so that you can hear his wisdom and trust your own knowing inside and live in alignment with that. And you can really break free from the struggle, the stress, the striving, and all the patterns and the beliefs that have allowed you to survive up to this point, but you know deep down are keeping you stuck and limited from the more that's available to you. If you're ready to know how to break free, and you're ready to live in that reality, it's time to embrace complete freedom and begin to live in it. And I want to help you do that. And if you're ready, let's journey that together. Click that button below. I've created a brand new year-long program. It's called Breakthrough to Arise. It is the path to the freedom, the fullness, the joy, and the abundance that you were made for. And I walk it out with you every step of the way. It's the best of counseling, coaching, shepherding, or discipling, all in one. Total transformation in every area of your life, so that you can live the life that you were created for. Click that button below and let's talk. Let's take some time and talk through what your goals and struggles are, and your challenges, and what's keeping you out of the life that you were created for. And friend, please don't keep settling for bondage when real freedom is yours. You have one wild and precious life. Choose to live it free and full. Happy Independence Week.